we turn our attention to a story that's been making news across the country, and that is being described as a private school scandal. This is a school known as Legacy Christian Academy, formerly Christian Center Academy. It's been operating for many years in Saskatoon, and more than 35 students, former students that is, have come forward alleging varying degrees and contexts of assault and abuse and controlling trends from administrators and teachers, many of those teachers not accredited to be holding those positions in public schools. Yesterday, the story with an additional angle, the first court appearance for a former teacher at that school by the name of Aaron Benoweiss, who's now living in Edmonton, charged with sexual assault and sexual exploitation. One of the alumni of that school who has been speaking out and taking, if you will, a spokesperson role for this proposed $25 million class action lawsuit is Caitlin Erickson, who joins us live this morning from Saskatchewan. Caitlin, thanks for making time for us, and a good morning to you. Caitlin, I think we might have you on mute. We just want to make sure I can hear you, but Johnny will get that figured out. Well, there we go. Can we hear you now?
Hi.
There you are. Hey, it's nice to see your face. This has been a long road for you, and we can talk about this court appearance yesterday, but why don't we establish the context here? This is something that you've been talking about publicly for a long time.
It is. I mean, I started gently publicly talking about it, I guess, on my TikTok account. And then I had already made the decision at that time that I was going to come forward to police. And so then I came forward and I mentioned it to a few other former students, and it just started the trickle of people coming in. And I think you mentioned at the beginning, there was about 30 that have come forward to police with, criminal complaints. There's about over 50 at this point.
Was there over 50 now? Wow. So this starts with a couple people coming forward. Like, I remember we spoke with, let me check the exact date. I want to get this right. This was back on August 10th. I spoke with two former students at that school. Is it Sean Kotelmack and Julian Kendrick? And at that point, they were telling me that the more people that were coming forward, the more alumni that were indicating behind the scenes their interest in joining this proposed class action. Strength in numbers, I guess.
Absolutely. And we had reached out to a few different law firms, almost a year prior, just to get some information on what that would look like. So when we came forward publicly, we did so because there was people that were still in positions of authority in schools. And we know that with historical things, it does take the police and the Crown a very long time to, press charges. So we just made a decision as a group. We were going to start talking publicly about it because people need to know the individuals that they're trusting their, children to be around, because some of those people are very nefarious and they're not good people. So we made the decision to do that, and it just really snowballed. We didn't honestly anticipate the positive response, because just in the, where we grew up, we were always told, if you speak negatively about the church or school, there's going to be consequences for that. So,
and we'll get to this, but you have experienced consequences. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but your family has been intimidated. I mean, the last time that we were talking about your situation, I want to credit you for you've been in touch with our show and you've kept us in the loop with some things. But the last time that you were being dragged into the news, understandably, you didn't want to talk about it at all because you were worried about your little ones. You were worried about your family. Your house was being vandalized. This has been very real for you.
Yeah, so it started with my house being vandalized, and then someone broke in, and then there was a house fire. So initially, when people started reaching out to me to talk about it, I was in shock for about 3 weeks after, maybe longer, when it happened. So I initially was not in a space to talk about it. And the law firm that we're working with kind of said, you do need to talk about this though. And, this does need to be addressed because this can't continue. And I know they had reached out to the church and school and said, hey, you need to decry this behavior because this has escalated now. It's gone from, getting email threats I had an individual from the church that followed me to my vehicle, and I'm not quite sure what his intention was, but he was very bizarre. So, I mean, in everything and every threat I've gotten, I've always reported to the police. So, yeah, there has, been some things, and I guess I didn't expect it to be that insane. Although in hindsight, some of the people that are involved with this place or have been involved in the past, they don't believe that the laws of man apply to them. So
Yeah, isn't that an interesting situation? We were talking to Jody Vance yesterday, the broadcaster, and she pressed charges, sort of courageously moved forward this online harassment that she had been experiencing at the hands of a guy who was sentenced on Friday. I mean, a real slap on the wrist. Anyway, the point of me mentioning this is that he had an opportunity to speak in court, and she told us that he was quoting from the Corinthians in court, and letting her the guy that was suggesting that she should be burned in concentration camp ovens was telling her that her time was coming due to the I suppose that's the loving teachings of Christ in the Corinthians. But yeah, kind of a whole different ball game, isn't it? So the situation now, the province of Saskatchewan has said that there is going to be, and I'm curious, I've been looking forward to asking you about this, new requirements for private schools in Saskatchewan, private religious schools included. Not just Legacy Christian Academy, including mandatory administrative policies that have to match the public and Catholic divisions. They'll have increased financial reporting requirements, which is a big deal. The school's been getting about $750,000 from the province. And a defined separation of duties between their boards. A lot of this increased oversight, obviously, as you know, comes after these allegations, including claims of school-sanctioned physical abuse and alleged sexual abuse. What's your response to these increased reporting requirements? I mean, imagine a step in the right direction.
So, I mean, these increased things that they are putting in is only because of us students coming forward and identifying these significant gaps to the public. We have a whole Ministry of Education in Saskatchewan that has professionals that have, degrees in education, that have masters in education, that have been running these programs with these private schools for decades. The school that I attended has been open since 1982. So, I mean, the government has been well aware of these places for many years. And there's all these professionals in these positions, and not one of them is able to identify these horrendous gaps. It's very bizarre that it takes a group of students and an insane scandal for them to actually, be like, oh, okay, yes, maybe we should do some things. Now, the financial reporting thing is pretty insane considering, they've received public funds since 2011, and they have one nonprofit as the church and school. It's one unit. So there is actually no way to determine if these funds are being used for the school or for the church. And the government has newer asked them for that information ever since giving them funds.
This is the 2 Mile Church that we're talking about? Yeah. So is there like a common, like when you talk about these 50 students or so that have come forward with these allegations that have joined this proposed class action lawsuit, is there correspondence between all of you? Like, is there a group chat where you're offering each other supports? Did you all, I would imagine you must not have all known each other. I mean, you all have similar stories. You've gone to the same school, but this spans quite a history, quite a number of years.
We all I would say like 95% of us all know each other. There is some students, like obviously because the school has been open almost 4 decades. So there is some older students that I don't know, and they didn't know me. But yes, there is a group chat. There is also a Facebook page. And, a lot of us, like when you go to a place like how we grew up, you're in a bubble. So everybody you go to church with is who you go to school with. Though that's your friend group, that's your peer group. So even if you didn't, if you're older, you're volunteering in the church, so you're working with the younger kids. So you know everybody. A lot of us after graduation, we just were so traumatized that we never spoke to each other. So we all kind of blew apart and did our own thing and grew up. Some people would keep in contact with 1 or 2 people, but this whole process has brought us all together. And even people that maybe, didn't get along back in the day are kind of putting that aside, and everybody's uniting as one group, and that's been really powerful and really a big part of healing, I think, for a lot of people, because there was a huge sense of loss of community when you made the decision to leave this place. So a lot of people are gaining that back, and they're gaining their power back, which has been really amazing.
Yeah, I do want to recommend, if people haven't seen or heard our interview, like we mentioned back on August 10th, you can check our archives on YouTube or on the podcast and hear from Sean Kotelmak and Julian Kudrick sharing their stories and talking about their personal journeys, and really was a remarkable conversation. Caitlin, I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume, I'm assuming that you were not, just based on the ages of the accused. Yesterday, I'm talking about this court appearance. Aaron Benoist, whose lawyer appeared on his behalf over video. He's 46 years old. The former teacher is charged with sexual assault, sexual exploitation. The complainant, a former gym student of his. What was the live chat? What was not your live chat, your group chat? What was the conversation like? Where's your head at with regards to that story? He is one of the plaintiffs named in this lawsuit, but he's not the only one.
He's a defendant named, in the lawsuit.
Pardon me. Yes.
So and just to clarify, he was a coach and he was the athletic director. He wasn't a teacher. But there was 9 of us in our core student group that went to court yesterday to support the victim. And so we actually, the courtroom was packed because there were so many of us there, and there were so many of her family there. So there was just a lot of support. We've known about this situation with Aaron Benoist for a few years now, and it was really baffling to a lot of us that, even after we left, and I graduated in 2005, so this happened after I left. But the stories of just even the grooming that continued, and not, with this particular person, there was other students that noticed this behavior. There was even male students that picked up on this behavior, but it was so ingrained in us not to have any autonomy of our body, even, that the teachers did not pick up on this till it came to their actual, knowing what happened, because Jen, the victim, came forward. So it's, we're obviously, we just want to support Jen. We want to be there for her so she knows she's not alone, because this is obviously very traumatizing and bringing a lot of, not great feelings up. But at the same time, she's finally, for the first time, actually being heard and being able to speak on this and have people listen to her. So that's really important for her too.
What's the status of the class action right now?
So right now the law firm's just working on certification, that process, and certification really just, it determines whether the class action is the right route for this to take, whether, so they'll look at, should these students be individually suing the school themselves, or should this be a group effort? So that's just what the law firm's working on right now. Lots of students are coming in with intakes. So they're going through those. So they're very busy.
What would be your ideal outcome here? What would you like to see happen? What do you think would be appropriate?
Well, the number one thing is, there's certain individuals that should never be around children or be in a position of authority around children. So, there's some people we would like to see some sort of court mandate that these people not be allowed to be in a position of authority over children. And, the whole point of this is so that this doesn't happen again. So whatever form that needs to take, that's partly why the government, was added to the lawsuit as well, because there has to be some changes, top down as well, on making sure that there's safety nets in place, because we just want to make sure that things are better for the next generation than they were for us.
Has this been, it's interesting right now with the governments in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Obviously, the Saskatchewan party, a conservative party. Obviously, the United Conservatives governing in Alberta, and we're about to head into an election, as you know, and there will be. We even saw it in the most recent budget. Obviously this is a government that's very friendly to the idea of parents' rights in education, and I have many thoughts on this. I won't get too deep into it right now, but it's a government, both of these, I think it's safe to say, in Alberta and Saskatchewan, that operate with the conviction that parents should be number one determining the course of their children's education, and that oftentimes includes more support for things like private schools, Christian schools, charter schools, homeschooling than you might see from, as an example, an NDP government in Alberta or Saskatchewan. What have you noticed, or what has this taught you, or what have you realized about the politics of a situation like this? Do you believe that the situation is getting a fair shake from the provincial government? Are you confident that Saskatchewan's education minister is taking this as seriously as you believe, as a survivor in this situation, you believe it needs to be taken?
So I would say, I mean, I believe in a parent's choice, first off, but I also believe in a government's responsibility to ensure at the end of the day that kids are properly educated. And so if they can't balance those two things and also align their policies with the Human Rights Code of Canada, then I think as a government, you should not be doing public schools or private schools, sorry, if you can't align those three things. So it has been very frustrating. And I mean, maybe I was a bit naive going into it. I did believe that when we approached the government with our concerns, as a student group and with these things, that they would act a little bit swifter and a little bit differently than they did. We've definitely got some significant pushback from the government where they've been like, they're there, we're doing enough. And, they've said, well, we've done 3 inspections every school year on these schools. Well, no, they haven't, because we have the inspection reports. And there's times where they did one every fiscal year, if that. There was a few years missed in between. And some of the reports, say on there, like, didn't see any students in the building. So like these are these inspections. So I don't really think that the government currently has the ability to actually properly maintain these schools to the benefit of the children attending them. So, and it's really disturbing how much taxpayer money they get when our public schools are begging and desperate every year just to have the bare minimum. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't make any sense. But our current education minister sends his children to a private Christian school in the province. So there is some major bias. Yeah. There.
Whatever happened with your house fire? I mean, I don't want to just kind of like blow by that. That's a pretty remarkable thing to have happen. I would assume it was, in a situation like that, it's a very suspicious fire. I would assume there was an arson investigation. Mm-hmm. What happened there, if anything at all?
Yeah, so just right now, police are still investigating. The last time they contacted me, they said, really, we don't have anything at this time, but we're still just letting you know, we're checking in. The provincial fire inspector, him and the private fire inspector kind of determined the fire started in the same spot, and they couldn't. Basically, the one inspector said, considering everything that's gone on, it's obviously arson. Can you tell us where they said the fire started? Where did the fire start? I'm not in my house. It's been 4 months.
Yeah. Where did the fire start, Caitlin?
The fire inspector thinks that it started on in the basement by where my china cabinet was. So okay, that's just where determined it started. So
do you feel safe right now?
Where I am, yeah, because the police response is 2 minutes. Where I was living previously, the police response was 4 hours. Yeah. So
because you got a house full of kids too.
Yeah.
Hey, well, listen, I don't, this is a story that obviously the entire country is going to be watching. And the interesting thing is, well, there's many, but number one, you've got alumni out of, what was it called when you went there again? It was Christian Center Academy, right? now Legacy Christian Academy, and you've got people coming forward. It's remarkable. I can't imagine being a parent and sending my child to a school where there were more than 50 former students coming forward alleging varying contexts of abuse. But I digress. You also have people, and it's something I've noticed, and it's something that I noticed when we talked to two of your former schoolmates there, Sean and Julian, that people will come forward having those experiences at other schools in other parts of Canada and elsewhere around the world, and it prompts a bigger conversation, which is a very valuable conversation. I think that there are some people that can be willfully ignorant about something like this, or like you said earlier, believe that the laws of God supersede the laws of man, and they convince themselves of all these types of things. But there's also other people that just might not be aware. And for you and those people that have joined that class action with you to come forward and to speak in front of cameras, I know that you do a lot of emotional heavy lifting with this type of thing. It really is valuable, and you're doing a service to a lot of people that really need it. I'm seeing some of the comments in our live chat right now, and they're saying as much. And so we appreciate your availability, and we appreciate you.
For sure. Thank you for that.
Caitlin, is there anything else we haven't talked about that you want to mention that you think that the public should know about before we thank you for your time?
No, I think you've touched on a lot, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
You got it. Thanks, Caitlin. That's Caitlin Erickson. She's one of the spokespersons for this proposed $25 million class action lawsuit aimed at Legacy Christian Academy out of Saskatoon. I know that this is something it's getting a lot of you talking right now. Ben in our live chat says, as a father and a parent of two girls that are attending a private Christian school right now, I think that they should throw the book at the guilty, heavily criticize the school. It should be scrutinized. He says, this is my first time hearing about this abuse. Ben says it's disgraceful. Tara Lynn says the Saskatchewan government or the Ministry of Education has the opportunity to set precedent for requirements, accountability, consequences for abuse, and it says it should be a federal oversight. Oh boy, that would be can you imagine if the feds wanted to, education and healthcare, these are the big jurisdictions, right? Where the provinces are like, keep your hands off it. Right? But wouldn't that be interesting? Says Tara Lynn says her comment is about to become a trash talk. Well, the good news is you can send us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. I'm absolutely not making light of it. I know for some of you, this may be stirring up emotion if you are a survivor of abuse, and we don't take that lightly. To be sure, you can share your story with us in confidence. If you like, on the record as well. McFury says, I'm witnessing the failed results of homeschooling in the Prairie Bible Belt of southern Alberta. And there's a stark contrast between the sects, like SECTS, that is, like, Dutch Reform versus Mennonite. Says the latter is struggling more. If I know anything about having these types of conversations, some Bible-believing Christians are going to believe that this is an attack on Christianity or an attack on your God. It's absolutely not. I am an alum of a private Christian school. I've shared that with you before. My personal experience, generally speaking, was a positive one. I don't think that you can, obviously, not every kid would say that about their schooling, and you would hear some of my former classmates that did not share my experience. But my point is here is you're going to go, well, is he going to say not all Christian schools? I guess that is what I'm saying. But I would suggest that if you are a person of faith, and if you do follow the example of Christ, if I can speak in this language for a second, you would believe in compassion, empathy, accountability, integrity, right? All of the things that actually matter, all of the things that are relevant in a circumstance like this. If you feel like this school is getting an unfair shake in our coverage or our conversation, we do welcome your feedback. This conversation is presented by the team at California Closets, who are transforming living spaces across the province of Alberta. California Closets, you can find them online at californiaclosets.ca. Learn more about what they can do in your bedroom, custom walk-in closets that will absolutely blow your mind. Like this one here, we're showing you some of the examples on their website of what they can do. As you can see, the organization that it allows for in a situation like this is perfect, but also the aesthetic, right? What about a new home office? Maybe you're looking to finally make that move to make your home workspace something that you can really be proud of, something that you actually enjoy spending time in, something that, makes your Zoom background look as good as it should for the position you have or the job you want to get. And don't forget, of course, as well, what California Closets is doing in garages, storage cabinets, workbenches. They do it all. And it all starts with a free consultation. You can get that ball rolling today at californiaclosets.ca. If your build is a bit of a different context, if you're someone like Caitlin there, navigating the aftermath of a house fire, what a nightmare, make your first call, Complete Care Restoration. Why should you choose them? Well, because they've seen it all over more than 20 years of business, fire damage, flood damage, mold and asbestos removal, all the stuff that gives you that pit in your stomach. And here's the deal. Most insurance policies will stipulate that you can choose who's doing the work. I recommend personally that you do business with Complete Care Restoration. You can find them online, completecarerestoration.ca. They're the ones that we tapped on the shoulder to build our Real Talk studio. We watched them work, and their quality craftsmanship, their customer service, second to none. We're so proud to partner up with Complete Care Restoration. If you're looking to maybe change the dynamic at your home when it comes to your energy supply, you know what I'm going to tell you. Kubi Renewable Energy is Western Canada's busiest solar installer. And that means that they're hiring. That's right, this spring, they're going to be sending crews back up onto roofs across Alberta, British Columbia, even into Saskatchewan, and they're going to be looking for certified installers. These are journeyman electricians or apprentices that are looking to get into this industry with a, bright future. That's right. You can get a free quote today at kubienergy.ca. You can learn more about their careers opportunities, and of course, you can make contact with them in that context. And don't forget to ask him about the Canada Greener Homes Grant. That's a $40,000 interest-free loan from the feds, so you can get solar on your roof this spring. Now, from up on the roof to into the backyard, or maybe it's the front yard, Eden Landscaping is bringing outdoor spaces to life. I'm about to have a whole lot to talk to you about that through these summer months because we're hiring Eden Landscaping to bring our outdoor space to life. Johnny had to hear me bitch and moan about our lousy-looking grass last year. Having two dogs, buddy, it's just impossible to keep it looking good. And so we're going in a completely different direction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we asked Mike and his team of designers to come up with something for us that would take into account some of our challenges and then maximize some of the existing, we've got some neighbors with some beautiful elm trees.
Yeah.
We want to work off that privacy. So he's integrating it all into a design.
Nice.
Then I looked at it and then I said, well, let's reflect our budget here. So we made a couple tweaks there. And it's just been a dream. I can't wait to show you all the finished product. I can tell you from firsthand experience dealing with these guy, Mike and his team. This is a family-owned business, has been fantastic from start to, well, we're not finished yet, but I'll let you know. Landscapeedmonton.ca is where you can learn more about Eden Landscaping. And finally, before we get to John Hick's Juno review, if you're a professional engineer in Canada and you are sick and tired of your job, let's be honest, they don't appreciate you. You're bored out of your mind. They're putting profits ahead of their people. It's time to make a move. It's time to check out apexautomation.ca. They are leading the nation in automation across industries. You could work in robotics. You could be working in the energy industry across Western Canada. You could be working in a new technology landscape, AI. They're doing it all. Industry 4.0. You don't know what that is? Maybe take a second to read about it and check out the careers link while you're visiting the website at apexautomation.ca.